Okay, it's Ruben Abramov here from the Torah Man Library, and I wanted you to know that this is an extraordinarily important Shabbat, and that is because it is not one, but two, but three different Sefer Torahs are they going to be reading from this Shabbat, the Torah scrolls. So that's pretty amazing. So why three? So I'll tell you. The first is you read the Parsha, you read the Torah portion. And when you read the Torah portion, it is for that week's that you read in succession. And this week, we're going to be reading from Mishpatim. So let me look this up just to be careful, because you don't want to read when you got the wrong parsha. But here it says that this is the first of Adar. That's an interesting thing. The name of the month is Adar. And the month of Adar is the last month of the Jewish year. And sometimes, in order to complete the year in the early part of spring, you have a second Adar. So here, the month of Adar is the one that they add so that it will make the beginning of the year, which is HaChodesh Harishon, the first month, which now we call Nisan, but that's a Babylonian name, everybody, as you all know, if you've been listening. In a loving way, I said that. And so now, I'm trying to get all these cameras working, because thank God, I'm fortunate enough to be restreaming, and pretty soon you can watch on Facebook, Instagram, Amazon, and other ones. Hi, Shlomi Friedman. So here we go. So the first part is the Torah portion is Mishpatim. That is a regular Shabbat. You take one Torah out. But I said three Sefer Torahs. So what's that about? Well, the second one, thank you. Thank you, Shlomi Freeman. And that is the second Sefer Torah you'll read because it's Rosh Chodesh. It's the new month. And what's the big deal about a new month? I'll tell you. Every holiday, you had to know what day of the month it was. And in order to know what day of the month it was, you could look up at the sky and you could see whether you went through the waning moon, getting smaller and smaller. I hope I got that right, the direction. Then you get the no moon, the last day of the month. And then you start again with the new moon, which is just a little sliver. And you'd have two witnesses eyeballing the heavens, and if they thought they saw it, they would go running up to the temple in Jerusalem and go to speak to the Kohen Gadol, to the high priest. And this man, or men, there were two witnesses, they would be able to trigger the starting of the new month. Now watch. You had to know what day of the month it was. Also interesting, there were 6 holidays on the 15th of the month. The 15th of the month was the full moon. So if you didn't get it right on the Rosh Chodesh, but you had to, you had these 6 holidays. 1, Sukkot, tabernacle. 2, you had Tu B'Shvat. 2 is Tet Vav, 15th of Shvat. Then you had Purim, the 15th of the month. Then you go into Chag Hamatzot. Now, you start with Chag Pesach on the 14th. Chag Hamatzot is the 15th. And the Sfirat HaOmer, the counting of the barley grain, was the 16th of the month. Wait, there's more. So then you also have Tu Be'av, the 15th of the month of Av, was another holiday. So what I wanted to share with you is Rosh Chodesh was of supreme importance because people had to know when the new month started. So that's why we are reading a separate Sefer Torah, because in the Torah portion, there's a supplemental Torah portion in a different section, and it says, HaChodesh Alechem Rosh Chodashim. This month is the first month, Rishon Hu L'Chodshei Hashanah. So God was telling via Moses that this is the first month. So it means that the Rosh Hashanah originally was now in the spring, and that only after the Babylonian exile and the return to Israel did they have a changeover, an adapting to and an adopting of the names of the month, which was Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev. These are Babylonian names. Tammuz is a Babylonian pagan goddess almighty. Just kidding. So that was why it was important to know when Rosh Chodesh was, because then you would know when to celebrate the holidays. Okay, Ibrahimov, wait a minute. Isn't there a third Sefer Torah? And I'll say, yeah. You know, what's that about? I say, well, it's Shabbat Shekalim. Whoa, what? This is the first of the 4 special Torah and Haftorah readings, not Torah reading. And the 4 special Haftorahs are Shabbat Shekalim, then you have Shabbat Zachor, then you have to wipe out the memory of the Amalekites. Interesting. It says, remember to forget them. Then you have Shabbat Parshat Parah. I hope I'm getting the order right. With the red heifer, that you will use that for purification purposes. And then finally, it comes back to Parshat HaChodesh, which is the parasha of the new month. So here, let me just see if I put it in the right order. Shekalim and Zachor. Yeah, I got it right. So those 4 are preparatory Haftorahs that, hey, Missy, that is these 4 special Shabbatot, Sabbaths, before the holiday of Passover, were these ceremonial events. The first one, Shekalim, a shekel. And you'd have to donate half a shekel in the time of the temple. 1, they would buy animals to do sacrifices. 2, you had to be counted, so you would give that money. 3, it was good for repairing the temple. So that's why people would give a half a shekel. They couldn't give 2 shekels, can give no shekels. It was a small amount of money that anyone and everybody could afford. Now, listen, when we came to the land of Israel, every person inherited some agricultural land and an agricultural society. So presumably everybody had some money. Yes, some people would fall on hard times. But the beautiful thing about Judaism is that, number 1, we all looked out for each other. And even if somebody could not pay their debts, that they can go into servitude to work it off. And then when they worked it off, boom, they went back to being a landowner. So this is a great system of keeping everybody with their dignity, no matter what happens to them. So that's the Shekalim. Zachor is going to be spoken about the Shabbat of Parshat Zachor, which is about the Amalekites. And then Parshat Parah is the red heifer. the red cow. And we'll talk about that at its appropriate time. And then HaChodesh. This is the month. It was the new year, the first of the year, and that's what they talked about. So here, we're going to read a Haftarah. We're going to read from the biblical prophets, from the book of Kings, Kings 2, and chapter 11, 17, coincidentally, till 12:17. So it is telling us that starting with the new month of Adar, that you had to start ponying up your half shekel in order to start the process of the renovation of the temple and buying animals and counting in the census. So here we go. Yehoiada, he was the king. No. He was the priest, the Kohen. And he contracted with the king and God and the people that we were going to be God's nation. That's it. A declaration of spiritual purity and holiness. And all the nation came to the house of Baal. Wait a minute. Baal, that was a pagan deity, a war god. And what they would do is they smashed these Baal statues, the altars, and then they slew another pagan deity. They slew Matan, which was the name of the priest of Baal, in front of the altars. So this was let's call it a bloody mess. And Yehoiada, mentioned in the previous pasuk, was appointing people in God's temple in order that they should guard the temple. And since Queen Atalia had abandoned that process, Atalia was the daughter of Achav and Izebel. She was Israelite from up north. However, she moved down south because she wanted to wipe out the Davidic dynasty. Her parents, especially her mother, Jezebel, wanted to wipe out all the God-fearing people. They wanted nothing to do with it. So she moves to Jerusalem, and she then puts a ban on worshiping God. And the people, the leaders of the hundreds and the warriors, and then all of those people stood in the courtyard, and that all the people saw the King Yehoash. King Yehoash was hidden in the back room in the Beit HaMikdash, in the house of God. Ever since he was born, he was protected by Yehoiada and his wife. And now that they killed Atalia, they bring Yehoash and they anoint him, they coronate him. It says here, Ben Sheva Shanim. He was 7 years old when Yehoash became king. And in the 7th year of King Yehu, Yehoash reigned, and he lived as the king in Jerusalem for 40 years. His mother, was Tzivia. That was my mother's name, and Jolie's mother and Ari's mother's name. She was from Be'er Sheva. Our family coincidentally owned some agricultural property down there. Well, we owned it. Hopefully, Be'ezrat Hashem, it gets sold. Then Yehoash did what was good in the eyes of God, until he took everything out except the bamot, the high places. And they continued to sacrifice these sacrifices to pagan deities. Not good. Then Yehoash, here's why we're reading this thing. because Yehoshua then speaks to the Kohanim, and he says, all this money that you guys are collecting is taxes. What are you doing with the money? You're supposed to renovate the temple. And he says to the Kohanim, the priests, who were from the tribe of Levi, who did not own property, it says that they must repair the damage done to the Beit HaMikdash, to the house of God, wear and tear. And in the 23rd year of Yehoash, that the Kohanim did not do this work, it was called out, and the king calls Yehoash, the king Yehoash calls Yehoyada, and to the priests, and he says to them, Madua einchem mechazkim et bedek habois. Why aren't you doing with what you're supposed to do with all the silver coinage that you took, all those shekels? So, continues. And it says that they listened to the king, and then they took the money and they made a special tzedakah box. They made a chest, a metal chest. They cut a slit in the top, and they put the chest by the entrance, the doorway to the Beit HaMikdash, to the holy temple. And that, when the people would come in to worship there, they would give their half a shekel. Hi, Paula. And they would give the money to the people that were doing the labor. So there were people, obviously people that were carpenters or stone cutters or whomever they were on the grounds crew. Those people were on the honor system, and they were paid out from what was taken. They also had to, which is my favorite because of Tehillim, that however, no silver pitchers, musical instruments, that were the Levium's property, and the different trumpets and basins and all those things, until everything was fixed. And everybody was paid on the honor system. Now, this is read as a supplemental haftarah to the haftarah. And it is the haftarah that you read if Rosh Chodesh is the day after, on Sunday. But that's not happening because the Rosh Chodesh, I'll finish up here, the Rosh Chodesh this year is 2 days. The last day of the month is actually the first day of Rosh Chodesh. It straddles. So the last day of the month is the first day of a 2-day Rosh Chodesh, and the second day of Rosh Chodesh is the first of the new month, Adar. And I mentioned before, Adar is always the last month, and sometimes there's the Adar Aleph, and sometimes there's Adar Beis. And you see in the word Adar, or actually inside of the word radar, it detects if it's going to end the year too early in the wintry month, that they push it another month in order that it's springtime when the holiday starts. What holiday? Passover, because it's a holiday for the Chodesh HaAviv. This is a springtime holiday. Just information. Other religions, other calendars that are not self-correcting on a lunar calendar, it cycles through that sometimes the holiday is in the spring, and then a couple of years later it falls out in the summer, and then it goes, and it falls out in the fall. We don't have that. We have it being corrected that the holiday of Passover falls out in the springtime. So, here's what we got to, and that is, we got to the fact that this Shabbat is the Parsha is Mishpatim. The Haftorah for Mishpatim, we don't read. What we read is the Haftorah for Shabbat Shekalim, which is the first of the 4 special Shabbaths that comes before Passover. And to boot, it's also Rosh Chodesh, a new month, the new month of Adar. What happens in Adar? I'll tell you. Purim, the holiday of Purim. So this is a important month. It's a holiday month. It's something that we could understand that sometimes the Haftorah takes over the Parsha because of the time of the year it is. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm happy if you get in touch with me. God bless you all. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.